It's no secret that my channel is mainly about roller coasters. Today though, I'm going to stray away from roller coasters a little bit and talk about some of my favorite flat rides at theme parks. While coasters are great, flat rides are another great use of your time at a theme park. They can provide similar experience to roller coasters or very different experiences to roller coasters. Either way, flat rides are some of my favorite things to do when I'm at a theme park. So let's count down my 5 favorites. Number 5 goes to Power Tower at Cedar Point. This is an S&S drop tower. These are very common and they can be found at a lot of parks. I've been on 4 of these and they all feel more or less the same. What makes Power Tower stand out to me is not only its height but also its views, with Cedar Point being located on Lake Erie and Power Tower literally towering over most things at the park. The view from this thing is amazing. In addition to this, Power Tower is much taller than any other S&S drop tower I've been on. It stands 299 feet tall, while Downtime at Lake Compounds, which is the shortest that I've been on, only stands 185 feet tall. That's a pretty big difference. Because of this, the drop on Power Tower is longer, so you get a longer freefall feeling than on any of the Scream Towers at the Six Flags parks, and a much longer drop than Downtime, where you're only falling for a couple of seconds. Coming in at number 4 is Daredevil Dive at Six Flags Great Adventure. Like the S&S drop tower, you can find these at multiple parks all over the place. I used to have one at both of my home parks, but the one at Six Flags New England got removed in 2014 to make way for the New England Sky Screamer, which you can find later on this list. The only one of these I've been on is Daredevil Dive at Six Flags Great Adventure. This ride feels like a giant discovery, but instead of sitting, you're on your stomach in a Superman position. I will say that one downside to the ride is that most of these are upcharge attractions, meaning you have to pay to ride it. Because of this, it isn't something that I do every time I go to Six Flags Great Adventure, but if you haven't been on one, I say give it a try. You will not be disappointed, and it's definitely worth your money. The number 3 spot goes to another ride at Six Flags Great Adventure, and it's the tallest drop tower in the world. It's Zumanjaro Drop of Doom. This has to be my favorite drop tower. One of my favorite parts of this is climbing to the top. It feels like you're going up forever, and when you think you can't go any higher, you just keep going. Once you hit the top though, the wait before the drop feels like forever. This ride's drop is awesome. The restraints are very unrestricting, and if you have just a little room, you can get some decent air time the whole way down. The drop is a whole 5 seconds long, and the feeling you get in that 5 seconds is better than any other drop tower that I've been on. Despite all this, I still think that it was a bad investment on Six Flags' part. Since Kingda Ka and Zumanjaro can't run at the same time, Kingda Ka's operations have since been slowed down, and Zumanjaro's operations have always been slow. Number 2 goes to not only a ride at my home park, but also a pretty new ride. It's Harley Quinn Spinsanity. Large pendulum rides have always been some of my favorites, such as Max Air at Cedar Point, Tomahawk at Six Flags New England, and of course Harley Quinn Spinsanity. Another pendulum ride is Frantic at Quasi, which I hear is very intense and has some good hang time, but I haven't been on that, so I'm not going to talk much about it. The best one of these that I've been on is by far Harley Quinn. There's something I love about swinging back and forth at 70 miles per hour while spinning. You get the slight intensity at the bottom, and get amazing sustained weightlessness at the highest points. Something with Harley Quinn is that it's packed in with a lot of other rides. You can tell that Six Flags has been putting their focus on that section of the park, starting with the retheming of Mind Eraser in 2017 and the addition of Joker and then Harley Quinn in 2018. Though Harley Quinn is an amazing flat ride, it doesn't make much sense for them to add it. First of all, the park already had a pendulum ride with Tomahawk. Sure, the ride was a lot smaller, had interfacing seats, and is all the way on the other side of the park, but they're still the same kind of ride. And as we know, Six Flags New England loves to have 2 of the same ride. Taking the number 1 spot for best flat ride that I've been on is the New England Sky Screamer at Six Flags New England. The first ride I had on this was pure terror. It's not as scary now. In fact, the ride is pretty peaceful. The feeling of going up is similar to the one on Zumanjaro. You just keep going up and up and up, and when you reach the top, you can see most of the coasters in the park 200 feet below you. The views from this thing are also awesome. Once you reach the top, you can see everything in the entire park. I mean everything. Every ride is visible, and you can see the entire layout of most of the coasters. You can see the nearby city of Springfield, you can see miles of the Connecticut River, and you can see what seems like an infinite plain of trees and roads. Something else that I enjoy with this ride is the music. I will admit it doesn't always play, but when it does, it really adds to the ride. The spinning on this ride is also another plus. With lots of rides that take you up high like drop towers, you only get to face one direction and see what's in front of you, and on lots of the drop towers that I've been on, you don't really get to choose which way you face, so you're just kind of left with what you got. Skyscreamer makes up for that with its spinning. You can see all around, and it's great. I know that there are rotating drop towers like the one at King's Dominion, but those aren't as tall as Skyscreamer, so they probably aren't as good. Another cool little thing is that during Fright Fest, Six Flags New England runs this ride backwards. It doesn't really affect the ride that much, but it's still cool spinning backwards. Well, those are my 5 favorite flat rides. Another flat ride that I was thinking about putting on the list was the S&S Scream and Swing, but I felt that the ones that I chose were better. Tell me in the comments what your favorite flat ride is, and since you've made it this far in the video, consider dropping a like or maybe even subscribing. Anyways, this is CT Coasters, signing off.